Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of On the Sidelines. My name is Matthew Lee Burney,
My name is Benedict Rhodes.
and we hope everyone continues to stay safe during what continues to be tough times with COVID-19. Ben, have you got up to anything exciting lately?
Not really, just same old. You always talk about just school mostly. How about you?
Yeah, just school and work for me, essentially, but that's all I can say right now.
Next, just jumping into our first topic today. Week 11 of the NFL seasons started last night. We're filming on Friday. Uh, Thursday night football game started yesterday. But looking back at last week, Week 10, Matthew, what would you say was the most notable game of Week 10?
Yeah, there were a couple, some notable games, I would say, but I think one of the bigger games was the Seahawks at the Rams, a big NFC West division game, and arguably, I think we can all agree that the NFC West is the best division in football right now, with what was a three-way tie against the Cardinals, Rams, and Seahawks, but of course was broken yesterday with the Thursday night game. But we'll discuss that later. But basically, they're all three of those teams are fighting for the top in the division right now, and I think the Rams showed that they're a team not to count out in that division. Um, Looking forward, though, they do have a tough game on Monday night, which I'll say in our Week 11 analysis. But yeah, I'd say the Seahawks and Rams was a big game from the weekend.
Yeah, for me, I think it was the Bills against the Cardinals. The Bills looking to stay hot again, but again, couldn't beat another top opposition. They lost to the Cardinals on a sort of a miracle play, I guess, from Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins, where Murray somehow wriggled free and just launched the ball down the field. Like, no idea how he managed to throw it that far, but he did. And Hopkins managed to get up and bring it down for the touchdown. Um, the Bills are still top of the AFC East, but they need to bounce back quickly because the Dolphins are looking really good, as we'll probably get to at some point. And yeah, the Bills they need to bounce back, and that was not a great loss for them.
Yeah, and you did mention that the Dolphins are just right behind them. I think they were like a game back last time I checked. And they do have pretty easy schedule coming up. Like, I mean, we did mention they have some easy opponents, I think, last week in their next couple of games until I think it was Kansas City. So yeah, I mean, they could potentially pass the Bills, but I mean, right now, I'd still see the Bills winning the division. But hey, crazy things can happen right now.
Yeah, the Bills are 7-3, and the Dolphins are 6-3, so they have a game in hand as well.
Yeah, yeah. The Dolphins had the bye week first, so yeah. Um, did you have any other games besides the two we talked about, like some notable games?
Yeah, there's some maybe not notable games, maybe notable results like the Steelers went to 9-0. The win against the Bengals. The Saints won without Drew Brees, which is an important sort of point for them. The Ravens lost again to the Patriots this time. There's a few notable results. They weren't necessarily notable games, but I guess the outcome was pretty important. What about you?
Yeah, the ones that stood out to me, I think one you mentioned the Pittsburgh Steelers going 9-0, the only undefeated team still in the NFL. And also, I think there's another team to keep an eye out on is the Las Vegas Raiders, who's 6-3 right now, and actually beat the Kansas City Chiefs, that's their only loss that came to or in this season so far. And yeah, going into Sunday night, which is a big game for the Raiders against the Chiefs in Las Vegas, that will. It won't probably determine the AFC West because we can assume the Chiefs are going to win the division at least for right now. But I mean, that would be a big game for the Raiders. Yeah, and also you mentioned the Patriots and Baltimore Ravens game. The Patriots definitely, you can't really count them out right now, although they are 4-5 and they might not win the division. But maybe potentially get into a wild card depending on their if they have a reasonably easy schedule coming up. I mean, yeah, and as I mentioned, they have the Texans, the Cardinals, the Chargers, and Rams. There's a couple tough games, but yeah, they might have a chance to barely get in if crazy things happen to them. But, yeah. Um, Yeah. So now moving on to week 11. What's a big game coming up that you're looking forward to?
Uh, as I've alluded to before, if we recorded this video a few days ago, I would have said Cardinals and Seahawks on Thursday night. We're recording on Friday, as I said. That game was last night, and the Seahawks won. As for the rest of the week, I think I'll say Titans and Ravens is a big game. Both of them are, I believe, 6-3, and the second place teams who would like to be catching up to the division leaders. So I think both teams will have something to prove, and we wanted to win that game for sure.
Yeah, for me, it's the Monday night game, the Rams at Tampa Bay, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Um, they both had bounce back games in the past week. As I mentioned, the Rams beat the Seahawks, and then Tampa put up 46 points on the Panthers, who, I mean, have been a bad team, but it was a great bounce back for Tampa after that horrible Sunday night loss against the Saints. It was like a 38-3 final or something like that. Um, but yeah, I think this is going to be. I think we're going to determine maybe who will be a tough or tougher contender in the NFC, which is it's tough to say right now who is the best team because there is a lot of great teams in the NFC right now. But yeah, I think this is going to mention or this is probably going to help us determine to see who who has the edge in the NFC right now, or at least yeah, who over which team is over the other.
And do you have any other honorable mentions for Week 11 games?
I think I mentioned the Sunday night game, the Chiefs and at Raiders, and also like I said, the Chiefs' only loss of the season came against the Raiders, so I think that will be an exciting game to see, and we'll see if something crazy like the Raiders sweeping the Chiefs this season would actually happen. I think also another game that we didn't mention was the Packers at the Colts. The Colts right now are on top of the AFC South division right now. We're just fighting with the Tennessee Titans, and Green Bay, of course, has been dominating like they have for most of the season at a 7-2 record. So yeah, I think we'll determine with this game and see who if the Colts are for real. Do you have any notable games?
I think you named most of them, but it'll be interesting to see like if the Dolphins can do it again. They're playing the Broncos. If they can maybe catch up to the Bills, who I believe have a bye this week.
Yes, they do.
It's be interesting if the Dolphins can use that game in hand to make it to 7-3 and catch up to the Bills. But I think otherwise you name most of them.
Yeah, as we mentioned, like it can be a crazy next month and a half if like the Dolphins are and Bills are both tied at 7-3, and we'll see like who comes out on top, and we'll just see if some crazy stuff happens there. Um, yeah, so we did. Did you have any other games before I move on? Before no,
I think
okay.
you got them all.
Okay. So now that we're through week 10 and sort of week 11 with the Thursday night game, who would you say is the best team from the AFC and NFC right now?
AFC, I'm going to stick with the Steelers again. Again, they're 9-0. I think they're proving they're the best team in the league. I know you're going to pick another team for the AFC, but I'll stick with them. And for the NFC, I'm going to go with the Cardinals. Maybe not everyone's pick, but at least they didn't win, especially, and they're not in first in their division. But they look really good at times, especially in that game against the Bills, like we mentioned. And I wouldn't be shocked if they ended up winning the division come the end of the year.
Yeah, that'd be pretty crazy. For me, I'd say yeah, you did mention I would say a different team for the AFC, but yeah, I would say right now it would still be the Chiefs. I think going into this weekend's game, we'll see if they're like because they have to. I think they can't get swept by the Raiders, or else I would probably say they aren't the best team in the AFC. Or maybe I'll jump on the Steelers bandwagon if they go to 10-0. But I mean, right now I'd say the Chiefs, depending on if something crazy happens. And then the NFC, I mean, you can make a case for, like you mentioned, the Cardinals. There's also the Seahawks, Rams. I mean, right now I'm going to say the Saints, although Drew Brees is out right now with a terrible injury that happened to him on Sunday's game against the Niners. But I know like the New Orleans Saints do have an easy schedule going forward, and they are starting their quarterback Taysom Hill, who has been in a couple of plays for the Saints offense. And yeah, they're playing at home against the Falcons, at Denver, at the Falcons, and at Philly, and then and then the Chiefs. So I mean, I think up until the Chiefs game, they might have, if because the teams they're facing aren't the best, so they might have an 11-2 record by then. But yeah, for now, until I see them winning, like continuing to win, I'll say the Saints.
Anything else on NFL before we move on?
No, I think I'm good for that.
Okay, the next is the NBA offseason. On the draft. The draft was the last couple of days. There's been some trades, some free agency news. First off, I have to go to sort of recap the sort of top of the draft.
Yeah, so the Minnesota Timberwolves, of course, won the number one overall pick for this draft, and they picked Anthony Edwards, sorry, from the University of Georgia. And then with the second pick, the Warriors went for James Wiseman, and then the third pick, the Charlotte Hornets went with LaMelo Ball, who we both thought would be number one in this draft. But I guess the Timberwolves saw some talent in Anthony Edwards, and that's why they went number one with him.
Yeah, you mentioned we both sort of picked LaMelo Ball as our number one overall pick. I think I also put a shout in for Wiseman. Yeah, I guess the Timberwolves. People are saying Edwards is one of the best, I think, guards in the draft class. So I guess they thought he'd be the best fit for them.
Yeah.
And another guard in the NBA, Klay Thompson, is out for the season again. How do you think the Warriors will fare without him this season?
I mean, I think they'll still be. I think they'll still be a playoff team. I don't think they're. I don't think they're going to win the West this season. I think it's probably going to be like Lakers, I mean Clippers if they don't choke again, or maybe some other team like Denver who beat the Clippers this past season in the playoffs. But I think they'll make the playoffs maybe as like a 4 or 5 seed. Probably get eliminated in the second round. But yeah, that's my prediction. What about you?
Yeah, be interesting to see what they do because as we get to in a minute, they seem to have done a couple of trades or in talks of trades anyway.
Hmm.
Um, Whether that's to replace Thompson or not, I guess we'll find out. But if Thompson's out for the year, obviously they need to make some moves if they want to be competitive next year. Obviously they were very uncompetitive this past year. So I'll have to see what they do over the next couple of weeks and months to sort of prepare for next season.
Yeah, and I think it's very unfortunate for this to happen to Golden State again for a second season with Klay Thompson having torn his Achilles in the NBA Finals last season, and it's unfortunate for him to go through this injury again. And I think it was like a pickup game too that he was just this injury happened. So I think it's very unfortunate for Golden State. I mean, probably I mean, like I was kind of excited to see the Splash Brothers play again this season and see what they would do with um, this upcoming season with the other elite teams in the West. But yeah, it's unfortunate for Golden State to go through this again.
And there's been some other news around the NBA. There's been some trades, including Chris Paul being traded to the Suns, Drew Holiday to the Bucks, and Kelly Oubre to the Warriors. Days after being involved in that Chris Paul trade. What have you sort of made of those deals?
Yeah, I think in regards to the Chris Paul trade, I think it helps out the Suns. I mean, we just saw them go 8-0 in the NBA bubble and just barely miss the playoffs or that play-in game, I should say. Um, but yeah, I think it makes them a playoff team. I mean, I don't think they'll make much noise in the West, like because they're not at that elite level, I would say. But it does make them a playoff team, I believe. Um, and the Drew Holiday signing, I think that also helps the Bucks. I mean, it's tough to say right now who's the best team in the East and if that makes them the best team in the Eastern Conference. But I think it helps them out and maybe gives Giannis another piece to hopefully or to help him bring his first championship, which he's failed to do in these past 2 seasons as the Bucks were the number one seed in the East both seasons. But yeah, I think that helps them out too.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Bucks are sort of win now mode. I guess 'cause I think after next season, Giannis can walk. So imagine their sort of decision was either trade him now or try to win something or try to convince him to stay. I think that was a pretty big acquisition. And one other final sort of major bit of news in the NBA is, well, I guess it two. James Harden wants out of Houston, and so does Russell Westbrook. He also wants to trade. Um, what do you kind of make of let's focus on Harden, I guess. What do you sort of make of his decision to leave and apparently rejecting a $50 million a year contract offer?
Well, I think that just shows that he obviously shows that he doesn't want to play with the Rockets, and I think it just. I mean, I think right now it's between two teams that might potentially trade for him, the Brooklyn Nets or the Philadelphia 76ers, one of those two teams. But yeah, I mean, it just shows that he just simply doesn't want to be with Houston right now.
And then the next piece of news, you can walk us through this one, is breaking just as we're starting to film, that the Raptors won't be playing in Toronto this year.
Yeah, so like just basically in the same time we were about to film, we found out the Toronto Raptors are going to be playing, are starting to play out in Tampa Bay, starting out the season in Tampa Bay. I mean, I think we all agree that it was coming, that this would come for the Raptors, that they would not be able to play in Toronto because of the border restrictions. But I mean, yeah, now that just finding out that they're playing in Tampa Bay, I mean, it's kind of unfortunate for us fans not to be able to see them in their home arena, but it is kind of the right decision for them to stay in the U.S. Do you think that Tampa was the right city for the Raps to go to?
I don't know. 'Cause I imagine they'll be sharing with another team down there one day.
Yeah, I mean, they would be if the NHL, when the NHL season starts, they'd probably be sharing with the Tampa Bay Lightning the same arena.
Yeah, so I mean that makes sense. Um, I kind of wished maybe they were a little bit closer to Toronto, or maybe I guess it doesn't really matter in the end if they're not going to be playing in front of fans. But I don't know. I'm kind of neutral on it. It doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah, I mean, I said maybe like New Jersey could have worked for them because you know that the 76ers, the Nets, the Knicks, and Celtics would like who are their Atlantic Division rivals. I mean, would have been close to them. It could have been like a smaller travel, which I think the NBA is their goal is for this year. Although there are teams that are gonna go out west and teams that are gonna go out east. So I mean, but yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with Tampa, but maybe perhaps New Jersey would have also been a pick or something like that. But yeah,
Yeah, that made more sense. Also, I think the wording was that they're starting the season in Tampa, so I guess maybe by the end of the season they could be closer to Toronto, or I guess maybe even in Toronto, but I doubt it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
that sounds unlikely though, so I guess we'll have to wait and see how stuff develops over the course of the season.
yeah. It depends with the travel or border restrictions which are now in effect. I think till the end of December, basically the end of December. So we'll see how that goes for the next couple of months.
And how do you think this affects the other Toronto-based teams or Canadian-based teams? Like the Blue Jays played in Buffalo this year. Toronto FC has been playing in Hartford the last few months. Vancouver Whitecaps have been in Portland, and the Montreal Impact have been in New York / New Jersey. So what do you think this means for them? Do you think they're going to be stuck in those sort of away from home bubbles?
I mean, it's kind of tough to say right now. I mean, it's kind of tough to say like if come April when the Jays are starting their season, if they'll still be playing in Buffalo, depending on if for some reason the COVID vaccine's available for most of the population, and that they'll be able to be able to be traveling in between the U.S. and Canada. But I think it's tough right now to find out like with these teams, and also TFC, as you mentioned, who also I think start at the same time as the Jays, or at least maybe earlier if I'm not wrong. But yeah, I think it's just a matter of time, and with the vaccine and all that other stuff, we'll see if that ends up happening. What about you?
Yeah, I think uh, again you just don't know what the world's going to look like in 4 or 5 months, but I think it's looking more and more likely that we're going to see these teams at least start the season in the States, especially Toronto FC. Um, if they're playing in like the CONCACAF Champions League or even the early MLS seasons, like late January, early February. And the MLS season usually starts end of February, early March. So we could, I imagine, won't be seeing them in Toronto for at least the start of the season. And same for the Jays. Like I think I wouldn't be surprised if they start their season down in Buffalo or somewhere else. But it depends what the world looks like in April, like you said.
Yeah, and I mean, also another league we didn't mention was the NHL and how they like maybe potential travel there, but I think it's looking like it's gonna be just a Canadian division in the NHL, so maybe they don't have to worry too much about like if they can't or cannot or can't or can travel in between the U.S. and Canada. So I think that maybe maybe the NHL is lucky that they have 7 teams in Canada, so they can just stay there. I mean, like I said, depending on how the world is in 3, 4 months, 5 months, but yeah, just to put that out there.
Yeah, but, we talked a lot about the idea of a Canadian division in the last episode, I believe, episode 16. So go check that out if you want to hear about more about that.
Yeah. And speaking of the NHL, actually, before I move on, do you have anything else to add about the topic?
So.
Okay. And yeah, onto our final topic. And speaking about the NHL, they recently released their reverse retro jerseys for all 31 teams, who will be wearing a couple times, I think, during this upcoming season. Ben, do you want to give your best or top 3, I should say, jerseys and top 3 worst jerseys?
Yeah, I'll start with the best. I just want to say first of all, I love like almost all these jerseys. The ones like the ones that I think are bad are usually very very bad. But if I'm gonna narrow down to 3, I think my favorite one is probably the Anaheim Ducks one. I know that one kind of divided a lot of people, but I love the idea of the mascot being on the jersey. And a lot of people don't like that one, but to me that's really cool. I think it's the only jersey as well in NHL history that has the mascot on the jersey. So that's kind of a cool throwback there. Second, I'm gonna go with the Calgary Flames. They brought back Blasty the horse on the front of their jersey. I really love that jersey, and their color scheme is always great. And then my third favorite one was the New York Rangers. I'm a huge fan of the Statue of Liberty logo. Sort of reminds me of playing the old NHL games as a kid, getting those kind of throwbacks from that. So that's definitely among my top 3. What about you?
Yeah, for me, one of them, I'd say the LA Kings. I mean, just looking at the jersey, I get a Lakers inspiration with that jersey right away when I see it. So I like those the color scheme with the gold and purple, and also the king's crown, of course, on their jersey, which is their logo. Um, Also, another one I liked was the Carolina Hurricanes, which, of course, is inspiration to the Whalers, which was their older team. Obviously, the logo is very present. It's a with the green, blue, and white color scheme, which I like, and with the also with the whale on the shoulder patch too is a nice little addition. And also another one which I don't think you'll agree on is the Colorado Avalanche one. I just like Quebec Nordiques inspiration there. I mean, I know maybe some people might not like the jersey, but I just like that they went for that inspiration, and yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, I agree with the Kings. I love the color scheme and the history behind that jersey specifically. I remember reading something to do with Wayne Gretzky. I think he it was when he became the all-time leading scorer in NHL history. I believe he was wearing that jersey, so that's kind of
Mm.
cool bit of history there. But I don't necessarily agree with the other two, to be honest. I like the Whalers one, but I just think the Hurricanes have had better Whalers jerseys in the last couple years. So I do like this one, but I don't know if I'd put it among my top 3 in terms of like originality. So like I said, like the Hurricanes have worn jerseys like that. And I guess now I'll just move on to my worst jerseys
Yeah.
because my worst jersey among them was among your best one is the Avalanche jersey. I'm not a fan of that one at all, to be honest. I imagine if you're a Quebec Nordiques fan and you're hoping for your team to come back and you see that, you're pretty annoyed. Uh, and I'm not a Nordiques fan, but I just don't like it personally. Like the burgundy fleur de lis at the bottom and stuff, like is just not my thing personally. Uh, the other two worst ones, the Red Wings one, it's just boring. Like there's nothing to it. It's just it looks like a practice jersey. It's just white with a couple of gray stripes. Like there's nothing to it. It's just I don't know. I just don't like it. And then um, third, among my worst jerseys, I had the New York Islanders. Again, like it's just an Islanders jersey. There's nothing new about it. There's nothing interesting about it. They had so many possibilities with the Islanders. They have a great color scheme. They had the old logo with the fisherman they easily could have brought back, and everyone wanted them to bring back. But instead, they just recreated every single jersey they've ever had, pretty much. So I'm not a fan of that one at all.
Yeah, for me, I mean, one thing we can agree on is the Red Wings jersey. I mean, I mean, there's nothing really fancy about it just besides their regular logo, which we all know by now. But I mean, I think it's just it's kind of maybe like just like a beginner like artist or something just was like just had this in mind, or whoever created these jerseys just had this idea, which is kind of a boring idea. But I mean, yeah, there's nothing really special about the Red Wings jersey, as you mentioned those points there. Um, Also, I'd say the Leafs jersey was one of the worst ones. Probably, maybe the worst Canadian one. I'd say the worst Canadian
Yeah,
jersey. I'd say.
I'd
I
probably
mean,
agree with that. Or maybe at least second in the bottom two.
yeah. Well, I mean, I guess you can make a case for. I think what was another bad one? I
The
think it was
Jets.
either Sens. Yeah, that's one of the other bad Canadian ones. But I mean, in regards to the Leafs one, I think. I mean, they could have maybe used like an. I mean, I know they're trying to go for the older logo, like sort of, but I mean, it's just not. I don't know, it just doesn't stand out to me too much, and like I would just say it's not the best jersey that has come from the Leafs. Um, and then the other one I'd say is the Pittsburgh Penguins. I mean, first of all, just the lettering's Pittsburgh, like just going like down, like across the jersey is just not not one of the best designs, I'd say. I mean, they could have maybe gone with a better approach in that sense, but I mean, yeah, I guess those are the three I'd say. But
Mm,
there's a case for a lot more, of course.
well, let's do that then. Pick one more good one and one more bad one.
Um, One more good one I'd say is, I mean, maybe Minnesota. You can make a case for
Yeah.
Minnesota's to be another great logo, or another great jersey, I should say. Um, I think I mean, I like the color scheme, of course. I mean, like with of course, the background right now is obviously the wild, like with the forest sort of logo, in the background of their jersey. But I think I like that, like their color scheme with that approach. Um, and then I'd say maybe the one of the worst ones. I mean, we mentioned it, but I'd say the Sens. Um, I mean, obviously their older or their new logo that they came out with is cool, but I mean, just I think it's kind of boring with the shoulder, excuse me, patch that they put just like a big S. Like, I mean, that's not really the most creative thing I'd say, but I think yeah, that's what that's my worst one.
And if
What
I had
about?
to do one more good and one more bad, I think uh, for good, there's a lot of them. I think they're pretty good, but I like the New Jersey Devils one with the green. I think that's sort of a nice throwback to the old ones they used to wear from the '80s. I think. Um, and I don't know. That's one I think they usually wear it around Christmas. Or they have worn it around Christmas. But to see it sort of make some regular appearances, I think is gonna be pretty cool. I really like that jersey. And for worst, I'm gonna have to go with the Jets. I think another one because it's kind of boring. It's just gray, and I like the old logo, but again, it's just not much to it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. I definitely say the Devils one sort of brings a Christmas inspiration, which makes me kind of get ready for the holidays, which are coming up in just a month or so, which is some kind of cheer we need for COVID. But I mean, it's just I like the sort of Christmas scheme that they went for there, and then yeah, as you mentioned with the Jets logo, I think yeah, there's obvious reasons why it's kind of one of the worst ones out there, as
And
you
the Sharks
mentioned.
too. Like the Sharks one is it's nice, but they could have done so much more. I think like the gray is just kind of bland, right? Like they have such a nice color scheme, and they could have done so much with it. But I don't know.
Yeah,
It's just it's meh.
yeah. There's definitely positives and negatives for each one, but yeah, we just of course gave ours out. Did you want to point out another one before we move on?
No, I think man, I think a lot of them are either really really good or really really bad. I think we sort of named the best and the worst ones, most of which we agree on. I think, other than the Avalanche one. Um, I don't know. I like the Lightning one too, and the Phoenix one and the Capitals. There's a lot of really good ones, but for every good one, there's one that's just as bad. I think.
Yeah, I definitely say. I mean, of course, as you mentioned, there are good ones, there are bad ones, but I mean, I think as hockey fans, as we wait for the season to come, hopefully in January 1st is supposed to be the start date for the NHL, but um, hopefully, I mean, this kind of the NHL. I think with this jersey release, the NHL is trying to give their fans something to look forward to. You know, of course, we know that they're going through the financial situations right now that trying to sort out.
Yeah,
But yeah, but I think this is just giving us something hope to look forward to, and hopefully that they'll come back January 1st. But yeah, we'll have to see.
yeah. Anything else, or do you want to just wrap it up?
I think we're good for today. Yeah, as we mentioned, that's all the topics we have for today. But thank you guys for watching. My name's Matthew Erling Bruni,
I'm Benedict Rhodes.
and thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.